a video blog. So, this Starbucks over here, which you'll see, it's to my right. You'll see it in a second. Actually, do you know I picked this site for a Starbucks way before it opened? And do you know what opened there? A Starbucks. But it's right here next to Noodles and Pokey Hale. It's right on this corner. So, sorry, the thing doesn't work correctly holding it. But what I want to mention, so I go in there every day over a month, and every day they slam their ice bend. Slam, I mean fucking loud, unbelievably loud. Slam. And then I asked them, I'm like, why do you slam your ice bend? And then the one girl told me, because it's broken. And so we have to slam it. And then I asked again a week later, and then another girl told me that we need to do it. So first it's broken, and it was a necessity, and I said, when are you going to get it fixed? And in between, I asked another girl, different girl, have you fixed your ice bend yet? And her answer was, I don't know. So they slam it, I mean, unbelievably hard. And they do it numerous times per hour. I mean, slam. And they're slamming some other stuff. Okay, I'm okay with that. But they're slamming their doors on their refrigerators. And it's more like poof, 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 poof. Because, the interior atmosphere is denser than the exterior atmosphere. And so when they slam the door against it, it hits a heavier atmosphere. And it causes drag, and it causes poof, poof, poof. Now the doors have rubber rings. So the rubber rings dampen some of the sound. But they're slam, boof, 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 slam, boof, 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 continuously. Now, it would be okay if I didn't grow up in the service industry since I've been a child. So, if I didn't work in the industry, I would say, the conduct. But when you work in the industry for 40, whatever years, at not just any places, some of the highest, actually, the highest volume places in the world, Charlie's, my little 2,000-foot place on Navy Pier, which our owners, we did 4 to 5 times the money they thought they were going to get on a monthly basis. My numbers were 4 to 5 times more than they anticipated in earning. 4 to 5 times more. And it was all my innovation. They would have never had it. Me, they would have closed with the pier. I worked out with the pier and stayed open to 2 and 3 in the morning. I brought in, desert or Island Oasis, the tap boxes, many other things. And then I did the recruiting of the people from the ships and other restaurants and from people from outside coming. So we were just slammed from the time we opened to the time we closed. So, and my staff, like Rocky, worked for me at Baja. They all had incredible experience. And they were all college educated, most all of them. Graduated. And they've been in an industry and highly proficient. From Michigan State to many other universities. Megan was one. She went to Michigan State. But they all like working for me, too. Not because I was a brown noser, because I was fair and righteous. And they knew that no matter what, I was going to be fair about a situation. And sometimes it sided against them. But again, I was fair and balanced. How do you think Fox News became number one? And they had Juan on. But truly, they preached fair and balanced. Unlike the Cup of Joe, I'll give you this talk show, which is pro-democratic. And my friend Michael Kang used to watch it regularly. So not everything I watch directly. But Michael watched it. He went to law school, graduated from law school. Now, here's a Korean. He's incredibly poor, struggling after law school, you know, and so on. But he's still a hardcore Republican. I didn't tell him or recruit him or anything. It's like Jen, the same thing. She was a hardcore Republican. I never said anything about my Republican roots or anything. They just happened to be that way. And so I'm talking to Michael, and he watches the Cup of Joe all the time, which is a great name. Cup of Joe, it's a morning talk show. And I think the one black reverend was on it. Al Sharpton, I think, maybe. But either way, even if he wasn't. Anyways, whoever the people were, he said they brought in patsies. They would pick the most stupid Republicans. Truly, he's a lawyer. And he's a historian too, which was good to talk to him because his father's a pastor. And we used to talk a lot of religious dogma. He's very abreast on religious history. So, again, he tells me they bring in these Republicans that have no ability to, demonstrate their position. Unlike Fox News, they bring on Juan and others. When they bring on a Democrat, that Democrat is somebody like Ellen Goodspeed, the economist now is the head of the Chicago Fed, which I like Ellen Goodspeed, truly. But he's a Democrat. But they would bring people on like him on Fox News that very well articulated. He was a teacher at the University of Chicago. He can substantiate his position. Very bright guy. That's not what they did. But people respected the show because it lived up to its name. It said it was fair and balanced. Republican, Democrat, even if it leans heavy Republican, it still brought on very prominent Democrats that were very good debaters, could articulate their positions very well, which made for a very interesting high-level discussion. But again, it became number one because what it said it was, it was. It didn't lie. It didn't make it out to be something else. It said it was going to be this thing. Now, the Cup of Joe, which actually was a popular Democratic show, and so it did have good ratings, but it wasn't number one. But again, it didn't lie about its format. So I am not calling the format a liar. I'm just saying people kind of see through it, and it's more like, okay, I hear the discussion in that, and it's for people that like to see somebody get crushed. It's like Mark Levin. I like his show. He's a constitutional lawyer, and people call up and he gets aggressive and calls people big dummy, like Fred Stanford. Get out of here, you dummy. Okay, that being said, where Mark Levin, I give him credit now in a way, but the call screener does pick the calls. But again, you go on the show and know that if you're a Republican and you're not well articulated, if you're a Democrat, and if you're not a well articulated Democrat and you come on with a stance, he's going to tear you apart. And then he's going to call you a big dummy, and he's going to hang up on you. So I gave Mark Levin a pass, because when you interact with him and you listen to the show, he doesn't lie. You're going to get exactly, that's his format, and there's no bait and switch on it. So I give these people, where I listen to the show and that, and I like Mark, but not necessarily do I enjoy the statements where he tears people apart. Sometimes it can be a little bit amusing, but I'm more looking for the facts. Like when he brought up, and this is why I like Tucker Carlson, and this is why he became number one. Bill O'Reilly got kicked out for sexual harassment, and Fox wanted to shore themselves up. And to do that, they went out and did a deep dive and found somebody that was a Republican and had incredible integrity. That's why Trump won the election when he found Mike Pence. Republicans were weary of Trump. Like Mark Levin hated him. Stephanie Trussell's a black girl. She's a Republican. She didn't like him. They all liked Ted Cruz. I didn't like Ted Cruz because I didn't want a lawyer. I wanted the lady from HP or Trump. I wanted a businessman. And I did like Bush, too. That was my top three. But the thing is, going into it, that they were against, but Pence came in and shored up the credibility. And that's with Mark Levin, and he does well in the ratings because you know what you're going to get. So he doesn't bait and trap somebody, but sometimes these people call in, and I don't know if they're, how do you say, masochist? Truly. Because sometimes they call in, they know what to show, and if they can't articulate well, now they might not be masochist and just not that swift. And whoever they're running with, they think maybe they're a good debater because, it's like going to, and they always use this, Little Sisters of the Poor. They just aren't well, endowed in that avenue, and the people they're around, they think they're very gifted. And this is another thing for self-perspective. When you're arguing in that, and you think you're really good, well, it's like fighting. When I say I was really good, I was around some incredibly exceptional fighters. Exceptional fighters. So it's benchmarking yourself. It's like SEAL Team 6. They're the best of all the SEAL teams. And they benchmark them against each other and find the cream of the crop to make one elite team. But these people, you got to understand your competition. So let's go into Warren Buffett before I got to get gas, but let's go into Warren Buffett. His See's Candy. Not like Fannie Mae and that, where Fannie Mae was more into urban markets, which would have been a perfect buy, and I always said See's Candy should have bought Fannie Mae. But that being said, See's Candy stayed in the rural areas and less competition. Dairy Queen stayed in the rural areas, less competition. He has a jewelry chain. I forget the name of it. It stays in the rural area, less competition. Truly. And so he has economies of scale in these smaller markets. And they have good product. I'm not saying Dairy Queen. I like Dairy Queen's product. I've never had See's Candy. Heard it's very good, actually. But he's not giving shitty product. But he knows that it's easy. So when you open something, you have to understand. Like, do you know Scottsdale and Tempe, Phoenix, Mesa, they're all really close to each other, is the most competitive grocery market in the United States. And so that's where you only see big chains like Fred Meyer. Then you see the Walmart Supercenters and Costco and so on. Because it's hard to make it as a little grocery store because margins are ultra thin. And when margins are ultra thin, you have to have economies of scale. And if you don't have economies of scale, then you have to find a middleman, like on the Profit. There was a dog food maker. Now, she thought it was selling out to her origins, but he took her to this manufacturer that manufactures dog food for many other businesses. All it does is manufacture dog food, and they try to be the best manufacturer. They don't want to, it's like a wholesaler like Topco here. They don't want to be a grocer. They want to pair up with strong independent grocers. Well, that's what they want to do. They want to pair up with people that do the distribution. And so he took it to him, and he was trying to explain her economies of scale to bring down her price point, so when she enters the market, she can enter the market at a price point that would work. If you go back, I like Marcus, and he makes a lot of good points. If you see the Shark Tank, you don't see the analytics. So if you see the Shark Tank, you have to watch the Profit, because the stuff they do is all fuzzy math. Truly, somebody comes in and they said, I got an evaluation of blank, and then my cost to make this product is X. Who the fuck knows? I mean, you would assume they do some due diligence, but you don't see the prospectus, the numbers, or anything else. And so it's fuzzy math. So when you're watching that show, it is not fucking reality. It is not how you go about it. I work with bankers. That is not how shit is done. So there's a due diligence that goes into it. And that is not the due diligence. So you're not seeing, they must do an immense amount on the back of the house before they go on the show. But again, if they're truly buying it in that way, they're a bunch of idiots. So again, do not think Shark Tank's reality. The profit's reality, and who's good with the profit? Bar Rescue. If you're in the beverage market, really good. Now, Gordon Ramsay, the older issues hit on some points, but he doesn't really go into food costing and scale and logistics and a lot of other stuff. You don't see him making dishes. They go into redeveloping the recipes. Marcus goes in, like with the burger place, he'll prune down the menu, go into the recipes, and you see like real true nuts and bolts. And so those are good shows because actually that's how it actually works. And so when you're going, they're good templates for you to understand. And he talks about market penetration and everything else. And he's from Illinois, and one of my banker clients is friends with him. He did some place in Park Ridge. I forget, it was a pancake place. I went by once. But again, and I was in a right to him to do Waltz Brothers. He never did a manufacturer, and I was going to bring him in to kind of do family business. Maybe he could help my brother-in-law understand. So anyways, when you're watching these shows, you have to pick the right ones. You have to understand what is fluff and pure entertainment. And I'm not saying Shark Tank's not bad. You get to see concepts in that. It's good for that. You know, getting these highbrow, seeing what people are thinking that works in the market, and you have to figure out where their market is and why they say it work. It gives you that data. So from that, from a high level or macro, it gives you information. But from a micro, when you're going to invest in that, it doesn't give you the information you need. So it's just one slice. You need the other slices of the pie to make a proper decision. So getting back to it, you have to live up to your word. Warren Buffett was hired at Goldman Sachs because his word. Ray Kroc actually was known for his word. Now you can see the founder, which is good, but all the stuff I read independently, Ray Kroc was known for trust. His word was his bond, and he was a very trusted and respected business person. They kind of don't make him out that way in the founder, but everything I read, that Ray Kroc was very respected for his ethics. He used to do business with a handshake. He believed in verbal contracts. Your word's your bond, your bond's your word. And he would do business by handshake. Verbal agreements, and then they would, cement the agreement with a handshake. Now, he got burned by one company who did marketing for the monopoly. But again, you have to understand these things and where to pull information from. And if you want some good technical science information, watch After Dark with Art Bell. It's not on anymore, but he brings on physicists and many other people on his show and goes into it. He goes into ghosts, he goes into multi-dimensional theory, many other things. And he really brings on people that have lots of credentials, vetted guests that really are truly who they say they are, that have done deep research. And he brings them on to explore these hypotheses. But these people, truly, like alien life or whatever it may be, and he was on late night. It's now where Red Eye Radio is, and those guys talk about economics. It's a totally different type of show. This is exploring science, really. The supernatural is science, and so he explores all of that. But he brings on some substantial ghost hunters and that, and they talk about their systems and how they go about things, and, you know, how they were trying to prove the existence of ghosts and so on, and what types of systems they were using to detect these anomalies and, you know, so on. And they have to obviously debunk everything. It's kind of like Mythbusters. That's another good show, because they go into the history, then they go into how they're proving it. And they were from MIT. That show, 3 scientists, 2 male, 1 female, but they did a mistake with the cannonball, which I never understood why they did that, but they shot a cannonball and it went further than they thought, and it went through their protective background. The cannonball kept on going and went through an attic of a house, and obviously could have killed somebody. So the insurance company dropped them when they saw that, because they relied on their incredible intelligence of being able to manage risk. But when they saw them make that extreme of a mistake with a risk situation, that the cannonball shot further than they thought, and it went through the barrier they set up in case they made an error, failed catastrophically as well, and it went through the house. They said, screw that, and dropped the insurance, and the TV station dropped them. So, again, but those old shows are really good, and I like the shows. They were good characters and everything. And it promoted the shit out of MIT, because all 3 of them were from MIT. That was the single largest promotion. That show was highly popular. Truly, it went on for a long time, and they were funny guys. And I like the girl. So actually, yeah, there's 4 people. 2 older guys, a younger guy, and a girl. And I had a crush on the girl. She's really cute. Seriously, really cute. And they all went to MIT. And I thought it was the greatest promotion ever for Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which I am a big fan of MIT. And that show, watching it and that, and Constant, that was a great way to promote. Now, another way was the Doctors of New York. And they operated a radio show that I used to listen to all the time. And they were highly informative. They went into very technical details. And those 2 guys were great. They were great talking. They went over the ACA Act, the Affordable Care Act, and they tore it apart, and their guests tore it apart. And their guests were other physicians, and they hated that. And like they said, it was more the insurance companies signed on to it, but they got bit on the backside by it as well. Now, going into that, it had nothing to do. It's just they were good, and they worked out at Columbia Hospital in New York. I forget exactly what hospital, but it was a great promotion for that hospital, and they were incredibly good at what they did. They went into good research. They didn't kill you with statistics. They KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid. But they gave you technical information, and it was a great show. Those guys were awesome too. So you have to understand, it's like I listen to Real Estate Now, and they used to have on their head economists, and it was a great show. And then the Larry Kudlow show, it was a great show. So there is going through it, and if you're doing your, picking, remember, when you're listening to things, these are people that are informing you, whether with music trends, what type of music, whether it's classics or whatever, they're providing information from you. You can listen to that and say, I'm just listening, and I do listen and enjoy, but also I'm noticing what music they're picking, because I used to format stuff for, DJs. I controlled their formatting. And so I listened to, how they go, the peaks and valleys and the beats per minute, basically, the tempo of the song. And I watch how they mix this stuff and go through this. But I'm going to leave this. I got to go in.